We're also joined in Ramallah by Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, independent Palestinian lawmaker, democracy activist. Your response from the West Bank right now, which isn't under siege, to say the least, in the same way as Gaza, Dr. Barghouti.
We are not under siege, but we are under Israeli attack as well. The Israeli army attacked civilian, non-violent demonstrators yesterday in Alin and killed one person and injured three very seriously. Another young boy was killed in another village in Silwal. 3 people have been killed already in the West Bank, and the number is rising. But let me say that what Israel is doing in Gaza is not an act of self-defense, as it is claiming. It's not an attack on Hamas. It is an attack on the whole Palestinian population. What we see is a war crime, a bloodbath, unprecedented since 1967. What we have had so far is 318 people killed, including 30 children, and at least 1,400 people injured, including 150 children and 40 women. I was shocked deeply today with the fact that yesterday the Israeli planes destroyed a house in Jabalia camp and killed 5 girls, 5 sisters from one family, and injured their mother seriously and critically. This is a bloodbath that should stop immediately. Israel is claiming that it is attacking Hamas, but in fact it is attacking all the Palestinians. It is attacking the whole infrastructure. They have destroyed a university, they've destroyed 5 mosques, they've attacked a hospital, they are shooting and destroying everywhere, and it seems imminent that there will be even a land invasion which could destroy and kill and take away thousands of lives. This is very dangerous, and Israel would not have gone so far if it wasn't for the compliance and the silence of the international community. One very important point here, I must clarify that it was not the Palestinians or Hamas that broke the ceasefire. Israel was the one that broke this ceasefire since 2 months. They started operations and attacks here and there, trying to provoke a reaction till there was a reaction, and then they claimed that it was the Palestinians who broke this ceasefire. Also, I want to clarify that Gaza Strip is the highest densely populated area in the world, with almost 4,150 people in each square kilometer. When you start bombing the place with bombs that are 1 to 2 tons heavy, then you're determined to kill people and kill civilians and innocent people. I've just heard Tzipi Livni, the foreign minister of Israel, saying that Palestinians should go away from Hamas in Gaza. Where should they go away? In which place? Which place they can go to when Israel is putting Gaza for 2 years under total blockade by sea, by air, by land? Israel has been claiming that it has withdrawn from Gaza. Israel never ended its occupation of Gaza. It maintained occupying the airspace, the sea around Gaza, and the land around Gaza, and it was preventing people from getting medical aid and equipment and fuel and electricity. I was just talking to our people in Gaza, and I asked them, what is your situation? They told me they don't have bread. Even bread is unavailable in Gaza, and now Israel is bombarding it in this horrible and unacceptable way. I think the world community must see the reality. This is an unprecedented bloodbath that the Israeli generals are using and politicians are using for their political campaigning in the elections. For one more time, they're using Palestinian blood for their election campaigns. I'm so sorry that even some left parties in Israel are supporting such an aggression. They all claim that this is about missiles, but let me ask a very simple question. How many Israelis were killed during the last 6 months by missiles? Almost none. The only 2 Israelis that were killed so far were killed after this operation. Will this bring peace? It will not bring peace. Will this bring security? On the contrary, it is bringing back the Intifada to the West Bank. It is creating terrible feeling all over the occupied and Palestinian territories, and this must be stopped. And if it wasn't for the compliance of this terrible American administration, Bush administration, who seemed to insist to have a very dark reputation before he leaves his office, if it wasn't for that support and compliance, Israel would not have dared to go so far in punishing innocent victims and in creating this terrible disaster in Gaza Strip.
Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, what about the issue of the complicity or the silence of other Arab governments and also of the Palestinian Authority now also criticizing Hamas?
Well, I think the Palestinian Authority is finding itself in a very difficult position. One of the main results of this operation is to weaken Abbas so badly that I don't think he will be able to speak on behalf of Palestinians anymore. Even Abbas is now under terrible pressure to stop all negotiations with Israel, to stop all forms of security coordination with Israel, because at the end of the day he was elected by the Palestinians and not by the right-wing extremists in Israel. And I think he has just called for a general meeting with all parties, including Hamas and Jihad. This is something that never happened during the last year and a half. And I believe that the intention now among Palestinians is to find a way of regaining their unity in front of this grave, inhuman, and unacceptable bloodbath.
I want to bring in Ali Abunimah, who is in Jacksonville, Florida, though usually based in Chicago, founder of the Electronic Intifada. Your comments on the situation, on Mahmoud Abbas, for example, saying that it was Hamas that brought this on.
I want to say, Amy, first of all, that we have to go back to the Warsaw Ghetto or Guernica to find crimes in the modern era of the scale, of the viciousness, and of the deliberateness of what Israel is committing with the full support of the United States, not just the Bush administration, but apparently as well the incoming Obama administration. We have to recognize the complicity not just of the so-called international community, but also of the Arab regimes, Egypt, President Hosni Mubarak, the Foreign Minister Ahmed Abul Ghait of Egypt, Tzipi Livni, when she issued her threats against Gaza, was in Cairo, in the biggest Arab capital, and Abul Ghait stood next to her silently. Mahmoud Abbas is not a bystander, the so-called president of the Palestinian Authority. For 2 years since the elections, which Hamas won, he and his coterie have been collaborating with Israel and the United States, first to overthrow the election result and then to besiege Gaza. We have talked before of the Palestinian Contras funded and armed by the United States, which sought to overthrow Hamas in June 2007 and had the tables turned on them. And now this. The complicity of Mahmoud Abbas is very clear and must be clearly stated. He does not have the authority, moral or otherwise, to call together the Palestinian people for anything. He has gone over to the other side. He has joined the Israeli war against the Palestinian people, and I choose my words very carefully. And let me say this as well, Amy, that Israel is trying to produce and promote the fiction that it is engaged in a war with a so-called enemy entity. What Israel is doing is massacring a captive population. You heard, you said in the headlines how Nancy Pelosi, our so-called progressive, liberal, anti-war Speaker of the House, gave her full support to these crimes. Obama has done the same through spokesmen, and that will not change. The United Nations issued a weak statement aimed at covering the backsides, let me say, of those who issued it, not aimed at changing the situation. What are Palestinians calling for today? Yesterday, the Palestinian National Committee for the Campaign for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions reissued and reaffirmed its call on all international civil society in the United States, in North America, in Europe, everywhere, to redouble the efforts for boycott, divestment and sanctions modeled on the anti-apartheid movement. This is necessary, this is moral, this is the nonviolent resistance we can all participate in, and it is more urgent than ever. Let's not look back at these crimes like we look at the Warsaw Ghetto and like we look at Guernica and we look at the other atrocities of the 20th century. century and say we had the chance to act, but we chose silence and complicity.